Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me again today. Oh, I've got my ear loops in because we got these tree frogs again tonight, but that was actually a bit weird talking to myself with the ear loops in, so I'm going to pull them out and suffer the consequences of hearing tree frogs. If anyone has ever heard what tree frogs sound like, they drive me nuts. Honestly, they are just the worst. How is my audio? Diana, is the audio okay? Give me a bell, guys, if there is an issue with the audio, because the last few days it's definitely been glitchy. Hey, Teresa, has anyone in here heard tree frogs? Oh my gosh, they are just the worst. I think I'm going to name some of these tree frogs after some people involved in this investigation. I'm always yelling out at these. Like, I'm usually a fairly passive person. I'm a pacifist, but these tree frogs, they bring out the worst in me. So, anyway, okay, enough about tree frogs because I could probably waste more minutes talking about them. Um, Today we are deviating a little bit. Not deviating, but yeah, I guess we're changing track a little bit. We will come back to evidence because, of course, one of the main things about this channel is, as I mentioned yesterday, education, psychoeducation. And so I definitely have some more of those videos to come. We have part 2 of the psychologist panel and the long awaited Who's Your Harvestor cars evidence stuff that I want to get to, but I just haven't had time over the last few weeks. So I will get to that at some point over the next week and a bit, and we'll get back into throwing shade at the investigation. But today I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about something else that's really close to my heart and has been ever since I got involved in this Delphi space. I remember wanting to do a video about Kathy Allen. I would say about a year ago. I'd say it was during the trial. So just, hey, Cryptex, how are you? Nice to see you again. Really loved your live earlier today. Cryptex, I was just saying today's topic is more a psychology topic. It's less about evidence. There won't be any bombshells. I was having a joke with Diana earlier, unless Kathy Shank and Dan Doolan and Jerry Holman enter the chat and drop some more of them. Today is really just more of a psychology session, not a session, but a recording, a live. So totally appreciate not everyone is probably going to be here for it, but anyone who is, please join us. You have my mod Diana in the house as well, who is another psychologist. So hopefully this is useful to everyone. But going back to Kathy Allen, yeah, it was approximately probably 11 months ago, whenever the trial was on. I really wanted to do a video about Kathy Allen and disenfranchised grief because I did not like to see the hate that was being thrown her way by people. And I didn't do it at the time just because life is busy and I'm usually juggling a few different passion projects at once. And so after the trial was over, I kind of moved away from Delphi until the exhibits started to drop. Oh, Teresa, a major in psych too. I feel like so many of us who are interested in the true crime field either have some level of psych training or similar background, or of course we are highly empathic people who have a lot of emotional wisdom too. So this video is for all of my emotionally intelligent, sensitive, caring souls out there. And I can already see everybody in the chat today that's already said hello. Definitely fits in that category. So thank you so much for joining, guys. I always appreciate your support, and even more so this weekend when it hasn't been the easiest of times for me. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about Kathy Allen back a year ago, and that was more in relation to how a lot of the people who believed Richard Allen was guilty had been so mean about her. Hi, Christine. You say, "Hi, loves. I talked with her today for a long time. She had not heard about a lot of the new docs." Oh, as in Kathy Allen? Hi, Barbara. Lovely to see you too. Today really is just more of a chat, guys. So it's not super structured. I do have my presentation because I like my presentations because otherwise I just talk about um, a gazillion things at once. Oh, that's so good to hear, Christine, that you spoke to Kathy. I hope she's doing well. I don't want to intrude on her privacy, but we're always here for her. And, if she ever chooses to watch any of the content, I hope that she approves of it. And I hope that she finds it helpful for her and for Rick. Yeah, today is all about showing the heart of this channel and of the Richard Allen Justice Project, which really is not just me, but it's all of you guys who support me. Certainly my mods, Diana, Shibby, Hebby, and Dino, who I have to say have the patience of saints because they've dealt with a lot of my big emotions this weekend with such grace and kindness and compassion. They really embody the values of this project. Now you will get the noises around us because Spooky the dog has decided he needs to be involved in the video. Lulu, my assistant, is hiding somewhere, and Kai no doubt will jump up to have a hiss at Spooky at some point because he's a bit possessive of Mummy. Anyway, let's get back to the point. I know Kathy Allen is a cat person, so I know that she has her cat plates, and I know that she worked in a vet. And I also am aware that Rick also likes cats. Hi, Barbara. Did I say hi? I'm just like babbling on, and I'm not sure who I'm saying hi to. So if I don't say hi to you, please know that I appreciate each and every one of you that hops into the chat and talks to me. And yeah, if I ever don't say hello, please know that it's not me ignoring you. Christine says Kathy Allen's allergic to social media and begs me to limit my use. I don't blame her. Goodness, I think I probably need to limit my use sometimes, but I hope Kathy will always know this is a safe space for her. It will always be a safe space for her. And that would be regardless of whether we thought Rick was guilty or innocent. Now, anyone who watches my videos knows I think Rick is innocent. But even prior to me being certain of that, as I have been over the last few months, I still extend so much compassion and care and respect for Kathy because it is not her fault, no matter what the truth had turned out to be. It is not her fault, and nobody has the right to blame her for anything that she has done to support her husband. Okay, let's hop in to the presentation because otherwise I would just babble. Of course, stop me at any point, guys, if there's anything you want to share or say. Today, like I said, is a little bit different. Actually, just pulling up the slides and also pulling up my notes so that I kind of stay on track a bit. So what here was that today's presentation is bringing it back into a space that has been flooded with a lot of cruelty, and hopefully remind us all that we are a community and we are all human beings, and we need to ideally show care and compassion and respect for each other. And that extends to Kathy Allen because she is a victim in all of this. So you'll see on the first slide in the corner here, we have the phoenix rising from the ashes. And I'm sure most of you are aware of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And hey, Charles, nice to catch you in here too. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that everybody in the chat is saying some really wonderful stuff, all in agreement that Kathy is absolutely a smart woman. Sharon, my BFF, is here. Nice to see you. So yeah, the presentation today for the newbies who've just popped in is more talking about compassion and care and community and less about evidence. So if you're here for the bombshells, that's not today, but we will talk about psychology, that's for sure. So I've got the quote here. I no longer feared the darkness once I knew the phoenix in me would rise from the ashes. And this is something that I live my life by. Hi, Carol. Lovely to see you too. And I've walked through many, many ashes over the course of my life, as many of you know who know my history. And I live by this phoenix rising from the ashes analogy. And I think it's so relevant for Kathy Allen here because she absolutely shows that she is that phoenix that's rising from the ashes. Any of us who saw the recent Hulu documentary would absolutely agree that she showed so much grace and integrity and strength and resilience. So always important for us to remember that even in the darkest hours, we can rise even stronger than we were before. And that's kind of, like I said, the story of my life. So I wanted to reiterate, I guess, the values that we hold on this channel. And I always say we because, as I said before, this is not just my venture anymore. There are mods that support me endlessly, but there are also all of you guys who join the chat and like my videos and subscribe to my channel. And I am endlessly appreciative and grateful of you. And I think the values that we hold, both on this channel, but also with the Richard Allen Justice Project, is to bring integrity back into a space that's been flooded with cruelty, to remind people that how we seek justice matters just as much as what we seek justice for. So, how we are going to approach other people and how we're going to approach this case, it matters. It matters how we do that, not just that we're doing that. And to cultivate a community of compassion and acceptance where the message is you are not alone. It's okay to feel hurt, confused, angry, or protective. And it's okay to still want truth and justice without turning cruel. So I made this hashtag many months ago to go with a lot of my posts, and that is hashtag all voices matter because all voices really do matter. And this space is a space where we really try to ensure that that is a message that gets across. We don't silence people, we don't mock people, and we don't bully other people. So there are people here right now in the chat. There are people in my communities who believe Richard Allen is guilty. And yet, I hope they've never, ever felt on the receiving end of negativity, nastiness, or silencing from me. Of course, I will disagree where I disagree, and I will try to always do that kindly. And I also will be assertive when people overstep boundaries. But again, we'll do that in a way that I hope would never, ever lean into bullying. So back to Kathy. And as I said, there's some parallels here that are going to kind of flow through today's presentation. It's not just for Kathy. She is the focus point here, but this is about compassion for all and for anyone who has been wounded or hurt or suffered from disenfranchised emotions. So what is disenfranchised? Goodness, I can't even say the word. What's Charles saying there? You feel targeted, Charles? No, you are not targeted. You know that I will disagree with you, but you also know that you are a friend of all of the people who I'm friends with, including myself. So, yeah, you are not targeted, but we will disagree with you if you say Rick is guilty. So, but we'll do it nicely. You know me, Charles. I still remember our very first debate on Diana's channel on her live months ago now, and you know that I will not cut you down, right? um, okay, thank you, Charles. I really appreciate it. Actually, I should pop your comments up, guys. I'll put the comments on the stage because today is a chat. It's a chat between us. It's not just the Amy show today. So, what is disenfranchised grief? Grief that is not acknowledged, validated, or socially supported. And so, disenfranchised grief. Hey, no face. Hey, quietly concerned. So nice to see you guys. We're just having a nice chat today about community and compassion and support for disenfranchised people. Kathy Allen is the centerpiece of today, but we're also going to talk about all the people who feel disenfranchised in this community. Now, Charles, I've kept you on the screen for too long. Only joking, Charles, but I'm just going to make sure the comments are in the corner so that everybody can feel like we're seeing them. So Diana's going to monitor the chat mostly. So sorry, guys, if I do ignore, just because I'm trying to juggle the presentation too, because otherwise I will just chat for hours about anything. So disenfranchised grief. So basically, some examples of disenfranchised grief are when we say that somebody's grief doesn't matter. Great examples are things like when you lose a pet, when you have a miscarriage, when you lose something that other people don't think is that important. And so you can see how this applies to Kathy Allen, because people would say, well, if they think Rick is guilty, they'll say, well, her husband's a terrible monster, so we don't have any sympathy for her. She supported him. I mean, look, firstly, as you all know, I do not believe her husband is a monster, but even if he were, what an absolute nightmare, right? She would be going through hell. Because has any one of you out there ever been in a relationship with someone and then found out something about them that you didn't know and been shocked by it or floored by it? Because I know I have. We've all had relationships with people where they've kept secrets. Now, anyone just tuning in, I'm not saying that was the case here. I do not believe Rick kept secrets from Kathy, at least not any terrible, awful secrets. But every single person, I would imagine, who's ever given their heart and trusted people has been betrayed. And so we should not turn around and say to those people, well, you were stupid, you shouldn't have trusted that person anyway. In fact, generally, it's the most compassionate and kindest people that trust. And that's probably because when you have a big heart and are highly empathic and caring, you assume other people have the same motives and intentions as you. And again, I think probably many of the people in the chat today here who support my channel, anyone listening to the replay, a lot of you would absolutely have fallen prey to this over the course of your life, where you assume that other people have the same good intentions that you do. I know I definitely have fallen for that and continue to. I always just assume that other people have empathy and care for others, because I generally do, except when I'm really, really, really cranky. And even then, I'm still able to kind of hold it back and hopefully not be cruel to people. So we know that there are still a whole lot of people out there who love to undermine Kathy Allen because they think her husband is guilty. But today I'm going to talk about the other group, the group of people that believe Richard Allen is innocent, and yet they still have said things that are incredibly unfair to Kathy. Now, these were some posts that I made about 4 months ago, according to Reddit, and they still completely stand today. And I want to read them out because, again, I would imagine that Kathy doesn't go on Reddit, and she may not listen to this live stream either, but perhaps there's more chance she'd listen to this knowing that this is a safe space. Hey, USA Libertarians, so lovely to see you. Oh, No Face, I just saw what you wrote. I'm so, so sorry. Oh, goodness. That would have been so heartbreaking. So No Face is just talking about learning that the child he thought was their son was not. No, you don't need to apologize for TMI on this channel. No Face. This is a space of community and sharing, and yeah, I open my heart and I open up to people so all the time. There is never TMI here, so it is a safe space. Today's almost like a little bit of a support group. for all of the people who have been wounded by the community, the social media community around this case. And Kathy is basically just a very, integral part of that. She's not an integral part of the bullying and the unkindness, but she is certainly someone who's publicly faced so much unfairness. But I think a lot of us have faced that in other ways, whether it's within this community or in any area of our life. I spend my career working with people who faced injustice and betrayal and pain. And I always want to create a safe space for that within the Delphi community or outside of it. Okay, so let's go back to this, but absolutely keep talking, guys. Everybody's story matters. Remember, hashtag all voices matter, guys. So yeah, I wrote these. I'm going to read them out. I think that, again, from the looks of the chat today, most of us share the same sentiments. So Kathy, if you ever do listen to this channel, I want you to know that we support you. So I wrote here, I noticed a few people judging and criticizing Kathy in various social media arenas, and I think it's so, so sad. Kathy is a victim in this. None of this is her fault. She's clearly a strong, loving woman and does not deserve to be vilified. And I subsequently wrote another support post because this was around the time where she was copying quite a lot of negativity on social media, not primarily anymore from the people who believed Rick was guilty, but instead from the people who were on the Rick Allen is innocent side. I'm just having a read of the chat. Oh, Christine. You know what? I think that, we unintentionally do put each other through pain. Of course we do. We're human and we're flawed, and, things happen. And I think what's really, really important is that we all reflect and we think about these things. And you've done that, and you're an incredibly kind person. And so, yeah, uh, of course, we've all made mistakes. And today actually is really, really important because I am going to talk about bullying and about people saying and doing things that are unfair. But when I do talk about other people's actions, it isn't to vilify them either. It's actually just to say, let's all try harder, right? So Charles is saying, yeah, Charles, you're talking, I've heard about this video. I don't know about the integrity of that though. Yeah, I don't know. And even if Kathy did at some point express anger or say things that were reactive, again, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I actually stand by her because, of course, you would be emotionally reactive when people are treating you the way she's been treated when you are going through hell. So, yeah. Just FYI, I've got Kai Kissy jumping up here, but luckily the dog is being very calm, so we won't have a hiss in the background. Guys, this is a video about compassion. They've obviously realized that. So the second post I wrote was, in light of various posts on social media that I've seen since yesterday, I want to affirm support for Kathy. No matter what you think regarding Rick's guilt, as you know, I believe he's innocent based on evidence I've discussed numerous times. It's not fair to be nasty towards Kathy. To the supports of Rick, probably should have checked this before I wrote it, but anyway, the supporters of Rick, this is not what he would want. Let's be kind. To the people who think Rick's guilty, even if this were true, she is another victim in this. Her grief is complicated by the circumstances. It's disenfranchised grief. And to all supporting justice for Abby and Libby, let's create an online space that's safe, graceful, brave, curious, and kind. From all accounts I've heard regarding the girls, that was their essence. Sending sincere support to all parties affected personally by this horrific double murder. I feel so much as I said that about the girls because, yeah, I do think that they were kind girls too, and had compassion and loyalty, and this is not what anybody would want, right? We all want justice, but we don't want cruelty. And I guess just going back to this disenfranchised grief, just as I was reading this, I remembered. So, disenfranchised grief is complicated grief because when we grieve and people are able to acknowledge our grief, we get validation and support and we work through it. But imagine when you're grieving, and most of us, I'm sure, in this chat are old enough to have suffered at least some significant losses in our lifetimes. Uh, Imagine when you experience that loss, if other people were to say that doesn't matter, that's not important, and not support you, but in fact also push you down. Just imagine how painful that is. It's the last thing somebody needs when they're grieving. When someone's grieving, they need tenderness and kindness and care. So we can just see how complicated this would be for Kathy. She didn't just lose her husband, she lost her future, she's lost her peace, her home, she's lost so much. But then on top of that, people malign and attack her. It's just awful. Teresa, I agree. Richard Allen is factually innocent. I agree, an incredibly egregious miscarriage of justice, and that's why we're here. Hey, Charlotte, lovely to see you again. I know Charlotte has definitely had some contact with Rick as well, and has been a support to him by writing to him while in custody. So nice to see you, Charlotte. And if you want to provide any updates on Rick for us, we're always open to that. Okay. So this is a negativity from within. And the reason that I am going over this is, again, to highlight not only that Kathy deserves compassion, but also highlight how maybe sometimes it's done inadvertently, but that we're saying and doing things that aren't fair or respectful. And I think that we all need to step back and consider when we're advocating for justice exactly how we're doing it. Oh, Charlotte, that's nice to know. She says she heard from Rick and he's okay. That's good to hear. Is he feeling hopeful, Charlotte? Does he know how many of us are out here advocating for him and finding holes in that ridiculous flawed case that was made against him? I hope he does. So one of the things that I noticed was that Kathy's competence has been undermined online, and these are sometimes direct quotes, and I'm not providing the screenshots because even though sometimes when I'm in my emotionally reactive state, I would feel very compelled to show receipts. My wonderful mods, Diana in particular, and Shivi, did say, we had a conversation, and this isn't about creating drama. This is about standing up for compassion and creating a better community, not dipping into, I guess what's the thing? What do they say? Giving the tea on other people or whatever. So I'm not going to name and shame people for saying this because, we've all said things in the past that we probably don't stand by. But here are some of, I guess, the things that have been said. And I'm so sorry if Kathy does hear this, if she didn't already know that people said this. So, Kathy, trigger alert. I actually want you to tune out for this bit. Spilling the tea. That's exactly right, Charles. Thank you. So I've seen people undermining Kathy's competence, suggesting that she was over her head or used to other people making decisions for her. And I feel like this is really infantilizing Kathy, acting like she's not capable of thinking things through for herself. And I think this is a theme in this case because I do feel Rick has also been infantilized, in this whole dependent personality disorder and fragile egg. Yes, he's a highly sensitive person. Yes, he struggled with his mental health, but that doesn't make him a child, and it doesn't make him incompetent or or incapable of making decisions. And that's the case for Kathy too. I think anyone who watched the documentary, I'm sure anyone who knows Kathy would not see her as incompetent. I would imagine that any decisions that Kathy makes in regards to Rick and his legal proceedings would be not only sensible and logical and informed because of who she is, but also because she would do this in consultation with Rick too. So they're both people who have minds, and they have support, and they have information. And I think we need to trust that. So just having a read of the chat, hearing people talking about Rick and supporting Rick. I'm really, really so happy to hear that people are communicating with him. I would love to. I'm definitely going to have a go at sending something through to the new facility. Well, it's not so new now, but the facility he's at now. I did send some things to his iPad, I believe, through PenMate some months back. I don't know if they were received, but I will continue to send. And I was going to send a book. I was trying to think of which book to send, though. I'm a psych nerd. I was like, do I send a psych book? But then I was like, no, probably a bit heavy going. I don't know. We'll have to think about it. What books that he would enjoy. Okay. Again, people have called her decisions catastrophically stupid, and I think that just suggests that she's naive and incapable of judgment. And again, that's really totally unfair, as far as I'm aware, and I'm sure Christine can inform us more. Kathy is an intelligent, wise, very capable woman, and she's not naive and does not make catastrophically stupid decisions in her life. I don't think either her or Rick made catastrophically stupid decisions. Rick sounds like he was an incredibly sensible, responsible man, but he obviously, didn't trust himself. That's got nothing to do with competence. That's to do with confidence. People can be incredibly competent and lack confidence. Disrespect cloaked as concern. So again, this is the infantilizing of people. So hopefully someone will explain to her as though she's a child who needs guidance, not a grown woman making difficult decisions under pressure. Kathy Allen, again, is a grown woman. She's raised a healthy, happy, from what I can see, successful, well-adjusted daughter. She's maintained a relationship with the man that she met, very young, and she has been supportive and loyal and stayed strong through unimaginable circumstances. She's not someone that we should assume is weak of mind. Covert misogyny, I kind of have to point this out because I think a few of us have probably been on the receiving end of this. So, sort of paternalistic tone, and this is both from men and women presenting themselves as the rational deciders, while Kathy's framed as emotional, irrational, or manipulated. Totally, totally unfair thing to say about someone that they don't know. Again, let's ask Christine. Christine knows Kathy. She speaks to Kathy. I'm pretty sure that she will agree that Kathy can speak for herself and she can make sensible decisions. And we know that Kathy has had legal advice. She isn't sitting at home consulting ChatGPT about what to do, right? And even if she were, ChatGPT is helpful too. I use ChatGPT all the time, as we all know. I noticed, people praising looks and making soft gestures and saying things like she's stunning, but then undercutting her choices and agency. And again, that is covert misogyny. And I don't think those people are deliberately doing it, but they're forgetting that they're making out that a woman is beautiful, or that she's soft, or that she's indecisive or weak. And while stunning sounds like a nice thing to say, it's really totally irrelevant. Kathy is a strong, brave, resilient woman who shows incredible loyalty, and that I think is what she would want to be known for. And gaslighting the narrative now. So months later, some of the people who did say negative things about Kathy have reframed this now and taint other people as the problem. And again, I don't say this. Okay, look, I do say this to point out misbehavior, but maybe they have changed their mind, and that's fine. But I just wish people could own when they've made mistakes, because I think I do. I think, my mods often tell me that I need to be less self-deprecating, because I absolutely always reflect on things that I've said or done in the past that weren't the best. But yeah, I think trying to just change the narrative now, just accept, we probably underestimated her and she didn't deserve that. And yes, I'm sort of crossing over into online bullying here. As I mentioned, Kathy Allen is part of today, but she really stands as a figurehead for so many of us in the community who've been bullied. And I really want to call this out, because it's not fair, it's not compassionate, and bullying destroys people. I can tell you that the bullying that I have received in this community as a 42-year-old woman who has been through a lot in my life and who has a lot of resources and support around me, this has shaken me to my core. And yeah, so we know that Kathy is a huge target to the negativity, and obviously is going through so much of a different experience to the rest of us who may be being bullied in this sphere. But there are always parallels in this case, aren't there? There are parallels between what happened to Rick, that he was bullied, he was gaslit, he was controlled, there was so much manipulation. And we know also that Kathy has received that bullying and negativity and doubting of who she is and her decisions. And we know that we have received that. And I'm pretty sure that most people in this community, or at least all the people watching and engaging with me right now, or many of you, have been bullied. I guess if I got you to put it in the chat, the people chatting right now, put a 1 in the chat if you've been bullied, or a thumbs up. Actually, let's do that. Put a thumbs up in the chat right now if you've been bullied in this community. Charlotte, you've been bullied? Yeah. I'm definitely putting a big thumbs up here, guys. I definitely know that other people have been bullied. I've witnessed it. Diana, I know, has been bullied alongside me. Charles, you've been bullied, haven't you? I'm pretty sure you have. Teresa, have you been bullied? I feel like I've seen, yeah, I thought I'd seen something. I was going over old screenshots I took of some of the harassment of Kathy Allen. Like I said, I'm not going to put them up here on the screen. And I think, Teresa, maybe I saw you sticking up for Kathy Allen and getting harassed in relation to that. You're right, no face. It should have been thumbs down for bullying. You're right. You're right. Yeah, I think it was Teresa. I feel like it was you on Twitter who was being bullied as well. Oh, Christine. Yes. If I'm assuming, Christine, you're the Christine I know. I'm just guessing that. You've got a different username today. Are you the Christine that I speak to? I'm just making the assumption here. If you are, then absolutely I know you've been bullied. And I know that because I have stood up for some of the people who have been bullied. So, yeah, and I hope that some of you in here have felt my support when you have gone through that. That's why I created this new community, guys, because of the bullying. The Delphi Mystery subreddit was created to be a community of kindness, and this channel, definitely is committed to that too. So when I did poll the Delphi Mystery Group, and of course this is not a big data set here, but look at the answers. Look at how many people had been bullied, right? Over 50% of people had been bullied. And I believe that statistics for adult online bullying is about 4 out of 10 people are bullied online. The statistics for adult online bullying are a little bit less researched or looked into than bullying of younger people online. But yeah, this community, I believe, is probably even worse than the average statistics of bullying online. And we can see that that a lot of people were bullied by guilters. I don't mind the guilters as much because, generally speaking, when they bully me, they just say things to discredit logical facts that I'm raising, and they do it in a way that is just really quite easy to dismiss. It's not usually as manipulative, but we also see that the not guilters also bully. So I would be in the category of yes by both. I imagine a lot of people in this chat would be more in category 1 or 3 here. Again, maybe you guys can answer that again in the chat too. So if it was just by guilters, 1. If it was by not guilters only, 2. And if it was by both, 3. I'm a 3. I've been more bullied by not guilters than I have been by guilters. Yeah, Charles, it's both for you. Yeah, I thought so. Diana, both? I feel like a lot of us, it's both, because I know most people here in the chat right now are people who believe Rick is not guilty. I know, not you, Charles. I know, but a lot of us who associate together, even if you believe Rick is guilty, have been bullied by both. So I know that I will be accused of tone policing today, because I'm calling out what we should do and how we should support each other. It's not tone policing. It's trying to advocate for compassion. It's trying to advocate for care. It's trying to advocate for us recognizing the defense mechanisms that we have and how they hurt others. So, No Face, your comment makes sense. Bullies tend to be lacking love. I guess it's not their fault, but it doesn't excuse their actions. 100%. When we bully somebody else, the bully attack kind of part of people is what we call a protector part. So I don't know if anyone here in the chat has studied internal family systems or parts-based models of therapy, and I'm not going to get into too much detail about that today, otherwise we're really going down a rabbit hole, but that's a massive interest area of mine. That is certainly the framework, or part of the framework, that I'm using in the book that I'm writing, which is my other venture that's been a bit sidetracked at the moment because of the Richard Allen Justice Project, which I don't mind because I will write the book. I have plenty of time to do that in this lifetime. But protector parts, they're the parts of us that are usually based on fight, flight, freeze, fawn. They are survival mechanisms that we all have that are inbuilt, and they're primitive. But when we experience certain conditions and when we have certain temperament factors, and we experience certain traumas or triggers or modeling or attachments or whatever, when we have life experiences, they can become, I suppose, overpronounced or underpronounced in terms of how we deal with threat. And so bullies, generally speaking, are people who have experienced probably some level of trauma and pain and invalidation in their life, and they are responding by fight, their fight mode. Whereas a lot of us in here, I suppose, who are potentially more pacifists, because I do believe a lot of people in my community, if you like me, if you like my stuff, you're most likely going to be someone who's maybe a little bit more the person who would err on the side of flight, avoid conflict, or fawn, people please, provide platitudes, placate. And so we may not go into bully attack mode, but instead into retreat mode. And for me, I spent a lot of my life going into retreat mode and into fawn mode, which was very much people pleasing and placating and second guessing myself and trying to be palatable. And only more recently have been able to lean a little bit into my fight mode. And I don't mean fight as in bully and attack, but as in be assertive and stick up for myself when I'm feeling threatened. But yeah, so what I'm saying here is let's be aware of the dominant protective modes that we use when interacting with others in a high, what's what I say, a highly, it's not a stressful community, but it's a highly charged community, right? We're here talking about two beautiful young girls who lost their lives. We're here talking about potentially corruption and conspiracy. We're here talking about a man that some people believe is a monster and the rest of us believe is an innocent man who has been vilified. This is going to be a community where there's always going to be a lot of emotion. But let's just think about how we respond to others in the face of that. And I agree with you, USA Libertarian. Attack and self-defense is not bullying. I'm with you. Please don't think that that's what I'm saying at all. Thank you, No Face, as well, for coming and liking and subscribing. You're welcome to join anytime. We really, really welcome you here. You've been a great addition to the chat today. But yeah, I really want to highlight this point, USA Libertarian. Please do not think that attack is self-defense. So what I guess I'm saying is fight mode, attack mode is absolutely a survival response and totally appropriate in certain circumstances. It becomes bully attack when it is no longer appropriate, where it's overused, where we flex that muscle a little bit too much and we're attacking and bullying people who don't deserve it, right? And that can happen when we become kind of entrenched in behaviors and patterns. And this is why, if we can step back and see the patterns that we're entrenched in a compassionate way, like we're all doing now, then we could actually change them. We could change our patterns and we could work on, softening some of those protectors and developing other ones. Sorry, guys, I'm really going into a psychoeducation, psychology lecture here. I hope you guys are finding it helpful. Christine says that you've met more people who were suicidal in this arena. Yeah, and actually that's a point that I really do think we need to raise today. I know that I know of at least one person in this community who has not just felt suicidal, but potentially taken steps to act on that. I know that for myself, being the victim of a lot of harassment and bullying, I have found my nervous system so charged and activated that I really could relate to some of the young people I've worked with who have definitely felt suicidal in the face of this. It's just we can't take this for granted, that when you attack people viciously, I just think you need to know the potential consequences of that. And I don't think anyone wants to be responsible for somebody else's poor mental health. I don't think anyone would want that, surely. So this is what I suggest we do. And this is what I need. I also need to try harder. I'm going to be honest. Like when I was kind of preparing this today, I was thinking about some of the people who have hurt me in this community. And sometimes because I get into defense mode, and I will argue a point and I won't consider their perspective in that moment. And I don't think that I attack people and I don't think that I malign people. And I think that generally speaking, when I have not validated someone's emotions, it's because they are joining in with somebody who's bullying me. But I will try harder, guys. I will always try harder to validate emotions. So if anybody has ever been victim to me not considering their emotions, or invalidating their emotions, or telling them that their emotions are wrong, please let me know. And I'm quite happy to work on that. I'm sorry that you were bullied in real life, USA Libertarian. That really sucks. It's really unfair. Interestingly, when I think about this stuff that I'm talking about today, I do feel like I practice what I preach, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I will continue to try to be the best version of myself. There are people in this community who I initially did not get on with. There's one person in particular, and I won't name names, but this person knows it. And yet now this person is probably one of my most trusted allies in this community. And I started off screenshotting this person because I felt that they were not being respectful to me. And it was really just a kind of, we had a very different approach to how we advocate and how we interact online. But we both were able to see the value in each other. And we formed a really strong alliance. And I really am so happy that we've been able to do that because, yeah, I'm really glad to see that. And, we'll get to this a little bit later, but that's something that anyone who's ever spent more than a few minutes actually not getting to know me would know. I forgive very easily, and I change my mind about people very easily. I can always be convinced. Oh, I just knocked over Jelly Bean. Sorry, guys. I was just trying to get my charger and I knocked over Jelly Bean, so that wasn't very helpful. But yeah, I can always be convinced to change my mind and to see the good in someone. So that again applies to a lot of people. We talked about this in one of my lives, I believe earlier this week. I can't remember what day it was, where I did a shout out to Delphi Docs, who initially was someone who I felt quite attacked by. I was banned from the subreddit, but when Delphi Docs was willing to acknowledge that I'd made some good ideas or had some good ideas or found some good information and gave me credit for that, I was quite happy to let bygones speak up bygones. And I always am happy to do that. I don't want to be at war with people. I hate being at war with people. It makes my nervous system feel so frayed. So anyway, look, guys, I'm kind of getting off track here. This is what Kathy needs. This is what we need. This is what everybody needs. We need to respect people's agency, respect that other people can make good decisions for themselves. And Diana, you'd probably agree with me on this. As psychologists, we have this belief that our clients have the wisdom within them. We are not here to tell people what to do and how to respond to situations. But what we do is help them to lean into their own wisdom. And how do we do that? Not by telling them what they're doing that's right or wrong, pressuring them, but by encouraging them, by validating them, by giving them space to breathe and to feel. So we need to respect agency. We need to respect Kathy's agency. Nobody cares about Rick as much as Kathy does. Maybe Janice, of course, as his mum and, his dad and his daughter. We do not care about Rick more than they do. I mean, I care a lot about Rick, and I know that most of us here do care about Rick. I think a lot of us have, really formed this deep connection to this case, and particularly to this vulnerable man who has been subjected to this horror. But I still have to be honest here. I do not care about Rick more than Kathy does. And so Kathy is the person that gets to make the decisions here. And Kathy is the person who would always want to do the best thing for Rick. Right? And we need to trust that. She's looked after him as a wonderful, loyal partner, and he's looked after her. And she's not alone. She's making her decisions with his family, I'm sure, with their daughter, who is an adult, and with Rick himself. So she also, I know, has been supported by Andy. And, I know that we can all be critical of what was or wasn't done as part of his defense, but I don't think anyone would doubt that Andy Baldwin cares about Rick and Kathy. I don't think anyone could suggest that. I can see that Andy truly cares about them and cares about doing the right thing for them. And no doubt, Andy still does liaise with them. I don't know that for a fact, guys, but I would assume that if Kathy was unsure and if she needed to have some support, that she would know that she could go to Andy and probably Brad and Jennifer too, right? But we all know that Andy clearly is somebody who has given his heart and soul to this case. Bye, Sharon. Bye, BFF. I'll see you soon. It was so lovely to see you again and your kitty. And please join again soon. We'll get back to snarking about the investigation soon. So if you're looking for the bombshells, we'll keep them coming. I'll keep trying to find more. Anyway, so yeah, let's respect agency. Let's validate emotions. Of course she's emotional. She's allowed to be. That doesn't make her irrational. We're going to talk about that a bit in a minute. We should ask and not assume. When I am working with a client, and again, I'll speak to Diana here too as a therapist, I don't make an assumption straight away of what is or isn't right for them. I've had clients come to me and say that they're not sure about their relationship or whatever, what they want to do with their life. And I don't go, well, I know what you should do because I'm so much cleverer than you because I'm older and wiser and look at how I've lived my life. I don't do that. It takes a lot of time for me to give opinions on things. And realistically, I would only give an opinion about something in therapy if I believe my client is in an abusive relationship. Oh, sorry, no face. Am I confusing you? Am I going all over the place? Diana says that's what annoying friends do. Exactly, when someone tells you what to do. And Diana, I think you know this about me. As much as I want to sometimes tell people what they should or shouldn't do, I don't. I respect that person there is an adult with their own mind and their own wisdom. Everybody has wisdom within them, guys. I was going to make a joke then about some law enforcement agents in this case, but look, I'm not going to. Today it's about compassion, guys, so we will leave Holman off the table. Sorry, did I mention names? Again, guys, just a joke there. Just reading what Christine's saying. She says, I have a criminal attorney friend who helps me keep perspective. He's a winner, but he has lost cases that hurt bad also. Lawyers have things in the background they can't reveal. Yeah, for sure. Of course. So what's Charles saying? I understand it all, but I'm a pretend I don't. Okay, Charles, so you pretend that. I always appreciate you though, Charles. You're a loyal friend to us, so. Centering compassion over control. Compassion is way more important than control, guys. If we lead with compassion, I mean, most of us as parents know this. If you lead with compassion, you're more likely to have kids that thrive and make good decisions, right? I mean, my kids are little, but so far it's working. Considering the perspective of others. And this is something I never realized people didn't do. And again, this is kind of goes back to what we're talking about at the beginning of today, which was around, assuming other people do what we do. Like sometimes I am completely in my own perspective, particularly when I'm in an emotional space, but I always stand back in time when I'm feeling more measured and go, I wonder what Kathy Allen would feel. I wonder what it would be like to be in this position, right? Have the people who feel that they want to malign her done that? Sorry, no face. I do talk very quickly and I do have a different accent. But yes, I do speak too quickly. So I do have ADHD and I'm verbally hyperactive and cognitively hyperactive. And I also have overexcitabilities as well. So apologies and particularly when I'm talking about the things that I absolutely love, like psychology and true crime and Delphi in particular. But yeah, like really, guys, perspective taking is so key. Like we can all do it, but I think we just are mindless a lot of the time. And I'm included in this because even now as we're sitting here, I'm thinking, I wonder what those people who don't like me think. And I actually did do this just before I got on here today, guys. I had a few minutes while I was waiting for the live to start, and I went on ChatGPT and I'm like, can we just check again about what I've done in this situation? You know, I'm like sending ChatGPT screenshots and, you know, looking at what I said and what I did, because I want to still also understand why people don't like me. But realistically, I don't want to encourage people to check why people don't like them all the time either, because that can become ruminative and impact on your self-esteem. So if you haven't done anything nasty or unfair or cruel, then if people don't like you, it may be just because of their intolerance. But, you know, we can do a little bit of healthy self-reflection for sure. And I do that a bit later today. If you guys want to hear some of my faults, I'll let you know. Okay. Let's go next slide. Can't remember what I've got here. Difference is not dangerous. So having your voice is not own voice is not betrayal. It's a sign of confidence, emotional sovereignty, and psychological maturity. And I feel like Kathy's shown all of those things. She's shown all of those things in dealing with this horrific past 3 years. So again, respect to Kathy, because I already had so much respect for her, but when I saw her on the documentary, all I can say is that woman showed the utmost of grace, integrity, and compassion. You could quote her and you cannot pick faults in how she spoke. She showed respect and care for the girls, but also she showed respect and care for her husband, who she truly believes is innocent. And a lot of us truly believe that too, for good reason. She was just so authentic, and yeah. Okay. Emotional gaslighting. So again, we're seeing the parallels here between what's been done to Kathy, to Rick, but also what's done to a lot of us in this community. And that is gaslighting. And I know this word gets overused these days. Everybody talks about it all the time. You're gaslighting me, you're a narcissist, etc., etc. I think that there is a lot of gaslighting that happens that isn't intentional. I don't believe that everyone who behaves in narcissistic ways is a terrible person who can never change. I don't subscribe to that idea. But what I do feel is that, intentional or not, it is still problematic. And emotional gaslighting, particularly, is something I've received as a highly sensitive person, as a highly emotive person my entire life. And I'm sure others of you, again, in the chat probably have, because we know that highly emotional, highly sensitive, hyper empathic people are the people who are drawn to true crime. They are particularly drawn to wrongful convictions, and they're probably particularly drawn to my channel in particular, because this is hopefully a space that always feels emotionally safe, unless you are involved in ISP. Right? Okay, so what is emotional gaslighting? It's the invalidation or ridicule of someone's emotional experience, especially when they cry, defend themselves, or speak with conviction. And I've received all of that. I've received that over and over again in this space, but also in my life in general. You're too emotional. You're playing victim. Don't be dramatic. It really reminds me as well of my buddy who I don't really know, guys, but my soul sister, Taylor Swift, because this really reminds me of things that I've heard Taylor say. I believe that Taylor is also a person who would be highly emotionally kind of gifted and I believe probably intellectually gifted, creatively gifted. You know, she is neurodivergent because giftedness is neurodivergence, guys. And she expresses all of this stuff, right? And I have felt the same. But who doesn't like the 10-minute version of All Too Well? Oh my goodness, the emotions, the pain. Anyway, I digress. There is no such thing as too emotional. There is no such thing as being too emotional. Our emotions are an indicator of a nervous system that is screaming out that it's in threat. So when we tell somebody they're too emotional or too sensitive, we are gaslighting them. These are signs people are in distress. They are not manipulation. If somebody is saying they're a victim, unless there's some ulterior motive, as in like, I'm trying to be a victim because I want to get $1 million, you know, then you could maybe be more suspicious. Not that I'm saying everyone who claims compensation for being a victim is suspicious, they're not. But majority of the time, if somebody's feeling victimized, it's actually not on you to say, no, you're not. Because unless they're feeling victimized, like my kids sometimes, because I'm making them eat vegetables, you know, if you're having a toddler tantrum, that's one thing. But if you're saying I'm feeling victimized because somebody is basically smearing the work that I've done, is questioning my right to have my own opinion, is questioning me standing by my family member in the case of Kathy Allen here, you cannot say that they're not a victim, because I think a lot of us in here have been the victim. USA Libertarian, you knew she was going to marry Kelsey. Athletes are very different from entertainers. Yeah, well, it seems like she's found her match. That's for sure. Yeah, I'm glad for her. It's nice to see her have somebody who she resonates with. So yeah, let's stop saying that people are manipulating and playing victim. Let's look at why they're feeling that they're a victim and try and understand why they're feeling as bad as they are. And also not decide who deserves to be a victim and who doesn't. You know, kindness actually and compassion don't need to be rationed, guys. There's plenty to go around. This is something that I tell all my clients. This is one of my little anecdotes or stories that I like to share with my clients. But our emotions are the voice of the nervous system, right? Our emotions are our nervous system's way of communicating. That's what emotions are. They're a way of communicating whether things are okay or not, whether there is a threat in our system. They are not weakness, they are communication. I don't know who it was that's ever suggested that emotions are a problem. Our emotions are not shameful. Our emotions all have an evolutionary adaptive benefit. They help us, they guide us to set boundaries, they help us identify harm, they help us move towards safety and healing. And invalidating someone's emotions is emotional gaslighting, whether it's Kathy's, whether it's mine, whether it's yours. There is never a need to tell somebody that their emotions are wrong. In fact, why don't we look for the kernel of truth within somebody's emotional reaction? Because there's always a kernel of truth. Charles, I'm not sure what you're getting at there when you're saying you've never been a boy then. I have boys, and I absolutely recommend that they experience their emotions, because our emotions are important. And men and women, we all have emotions. You're allowed to have emotions, guys. Christine says not sleeping, not having face-to-face friends, ruminating is common in advocates. I feel you on that, Christine, because since I've been involved in this Delphi case, there are times where I felt so isolated and I've just wanted to hold myself in, and I've ruminated and I've woken up in the morning with my nervous system on fire because I can't help but check what the latest Twitter rampage against me is. It's devastating. It really is. And I'm not playing victim here. That is how my body feels when I'm dealing with some of the invalidation that I deal with. And I know that many of you have been in the same position. Quietly Consent says many people got emotionally and intellectually attached to this case because it was unsolved for too long. Thanks to the Keystone cops that operate out of Delphi, we need to work out the facts now. 100% Quietly Consent. 100%. Yeah, I can't stand unanswered questions either. I have a massive intolerance of not knowing. I like to know, and this case is one of those ones where it can be tricky. I agree, Charles, that earlier generations did raise men to not cry, but I hope we're changing that now. I certainly am with my boys. So I'm really getting into lots of psychology here today, guys. I'm going to try not to go too deep now because we've like into an hour and 10 minutes already. I'm really thankful to the people still listening to me. I really thought there'd be like 2 people. I thought it would just be Diana and me most of the time. So really appreciate you guys. This is another really important one. Boundary setting does not mean you're being mean, because I think this is another accusation that we have, that if we set a boundary, that we're either being mean or we're being stupid. Right. So in Kathy's case, her setting a boundary of who she does or doesn't want to have involved in her husband's case was seen not so much as meanness, but as stupidity. But I know in my case, and probably in cases of other people who've been bullied here, when we've blocked people or when we've said enough's enough, please don't speak to me like that, we're then accused of being mean. So, if I share what somebody has said that's harassing me and point out that it's not fair, that's actually not being mean, guys. That's boundary setting, right? Just like what I'm doing now is not being mean by saying people said some mean stuff to Kathy and to me and to lots of us. That's saying this isn't okay. It's not okay to be mean to people. And saying no to someone being mean is not mean. And that's kind of what you were getting at before. You were, say, libertarian, that responding to people who are attacking you, is self-defense. That's not bullying. So when someone says no, they stand up for themselves or speak their truth, it tends to be labeled as aggressive or difficult or unstable in this community. And I know it's not just in Delphi. This is the online kind of social media community. But if you set boundaries with compassion and fairness, you're not smearing, you're not undermining, and you're not dehumanizing people, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, that is healthy, emotional kind of well-being, essentially. What is emotional well-being? It's being able to set boundaries. It's being able to express and learn from our emotions. It's about being able to relate to people with fairness and compassion and relate to ourselves in the same way. And it is not fair. It's not fair when somebody is being nasty and unnecessarily cruel and dehumanizing us to say, well, you just got to let it go. I mean, if you can, wonderful, carry on. And I would really love to be that person, but I can't sometimes. I can't, not when it's people smearing my reputation, smearing the work that I'm doing, smearing me as a person in a community that matters to me. No, if I just walk away, that's not fair. Like, I could have months ago when this all started, when the harassment started, I could have just walked away. But how is that fair? Because I do believe that I have helped this advocacy for Rick Allen, just as I believe others have too. So I don't think I'm the hero here, but I definitely know that I have found things that have been useful. I have advocated for him in a calm, measured way, and I do think that can make a difference. I really do. And it's interesting because the people who often accuse people like myself and like a lot of my friends in here right now chatting, and a lot of us who get accused of this, the people who are accusing us are the people who are often yelling and swearing, and there's nothing wrong with swearing, but but they're they're being really reactive, and they're saying everything's a conspiracy, and I don't really understand how that's considered measured. But someone sticking up for themselves and saying, please don't bully me, is considered emotionally unstable or oversensitive, because you won't catch me saying everything's a conspiracy. Anyone who watches my channel knows that I will point out the things that are conspiratorial in this case, but I certainly don't think everything is a conspiracy. Everything's a lie. Everyone's lying. Everyone's acting. I don't believe that. I believe Betsy Blair is telling the truth. I believe that some of law enforcement are telling the truth. I believe that Dan Doolan's written statement has not been doctored since 2017. I don't, however, believe that the lost tip narrative is true. See, I'm selective in what I believe and what I don't believe. I will only talk about conspiracy or tampering or make allegations, not allegations, speculations, if I really actually see some evidence of it or if it really makes logical sense. So I don't understand then why, people like myself, people like Kathy Allen, who make sensible decisions, are actually seen as the people who are irrational by the people who often do reactively, harass others, say negative things that are uncalled for, are seen as the side that are logical and fair. But, this is so typical of gaslighting. This is so typical of bullying, essentially. Okay, let's keep going. So mob dynamics, again, we're getting into the bullying territory here. And this is probably less related to Kathy and more related to myself and others in this community who've been bullied. But this is when individuals in a group abandon nuance to align with collective morality, and they punish dissent, punish perceived weakness. I guess this is related to Kathy because this is what happened with Kathy when she didn't go with, the plan that some people had for her. And it becomes this morality thing. So this is where we started to hear people who acted as though they cared more about Rick than Kathy did, who acted as though Rick was more important than Kathy, which I know Rick would not want, would he? We've all heard how Rick speaks about Kathy, how he speaks to Kathy. And I just, I always think about, Rick being very similar in my mind to my dad. And my dad would not at all condone people suggesting that my mum was stupid or wasn't acting in his best interest. That's not advocating for Rick. That's advocating for your own perceived rightness. And I think this happens all the time. Like I said, we got to be careful about how we seek justice, how we work towards justice, right? And what this is related to is shaming and exiling and black and white thinking. And these are all things that are not linked to emotional health, right? When people believe they're on the side of justice, they sometimes excuse injustice. And, we've seen this potentially happening in the Delphi case on both sides, because some of what's happening in terms of, alleged police or law enforcement wrongdoing, I do feel is means justifying the ends. I think some of those people believed that Rick was guilty and therefore didn't mind if they had to potentially twist things a little bit to make the story work, because they thought, well, all's well that ends well, right? And I get that. I think most of us get that. That's human nature. But if we do that on the other side, on the people who are thinking Rick is innocent and this is an injustice, then we're doing the same thing, right? So we can't excuse injustice. Again, just going over a few things that I've noticed in the community towards Kathy, but that also parallels what I've experienced and what others have. And I've said this is covert misogyny. I absolutely understand that it's not just women that are targeted, but right now I'm just going to talk about women. But men, I totally get you are targeted at times too. But we see this covert misogyny because a lot of the people who do this are actually people who would consider themselves feminists or, more left-wing. And I am a feminist. I am left-wing. There's no doubt about that. But these are sometimes people where that's their this is going to sound judgmental, but it sometimes feels a bit performative, right? Because they actually undermine agency. So these are the quotes again. She's being used. She's being misled, framing her as a woman. And they'll say, well, it's not because she's a woman. It could be because she's, they would do it the other way. But it's interesting because they're not framing that about Rick. They're not saying he's been used and misled by the lawyers. It's all on Kathy. Rick is still alive. Thank goodness. He deserves to be. But he's also making decisions about his legal counsel, I'm sure. Yes, he's been unwell. But clearly, from what Charlotte was saying before, he's able to communicate and he's able to have agency as well. There is ageism and gendered insults. Again, I don't really think we can call ourselves a feminist if we are calling people 50-year-old drunk ladies. Now, even if they are 50 years old and they're drunk, their age has nothing to do with it. These are really smear campaigns, and they're inappropriate. And it's ridiculing. It's gender. It's ridiculing their gender. It's ridiculing their maturity, their experience. When people are talking about appearance over substance, calling someone stunning in the context of trauma, which is shifting the focus away from her courage or actions. Gaslight. And we do this all the time. It's like when, you watch a politician, you're like, oh, I love her clothes. Now, of course, we can love clothes, but when that's what we're mainly focusing on, or that is covert misogyny. And that happened here in Australia when we had a female Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, some years ago, and people would comment on how she looked, because she hadn't had kids. They would talk about that. That's misogyny. That is misogyny, right? Because we don't hold those same principles as important with men. We very rarely comment on how a man is dressed, right? Now, of course, I'm not averse to us saying somebody looks good or doesn't. I liked Andrea Burkhart's comments about Brad Rosie's suits. He did look like quite a dashing gentleman, and that is totally fine. But what I'm getting at here is where we are commenting on Kathy Allen, for example, and just focusing on how she looks rather than who she is. Now, this is just an isolated comment, but it's just making a point here, guys. Let's really stick to showing that we see her as a person, not as this sort of overly feminized sort of, and I don't mean overly feminized, there's nothing wrong with being feminine, but overly kind of objectified. That's the word I was looking for. Gaslighting emotional expression, we've already talked about that. Painting confidence as arrogance. This is not so much related to Kathy Allen, but I certainly experienced this before because I'm quite confident because I spend hours coming to conclusions, and when I get to them, sometimes I am very confident and I am repetitive, and that's seen as arrogance. See, No Face, thanks for joining us. Come anytime, you're always welcome. And demanding emotional compliance. Don't be a victim. Don't take things personally. Don't take things personally, but you're making it personal. When you're calling someone a victim, straight away you're making somebody feel like it's personal. Anyway, okay. As I said before, this isn't just directed at women. I stand with all the men who've been subjected to this also. So usually using socially acceptable or coded language to delegitimize someone's voice, choices, and intelligence while appearing reasonable or even concerned is still covert bullying. And I think what's really hard here is that I've been told that I'm faking nice and I'm not truly kind. And I think, again, anybody who knows me knows that's not the case. That is actually not at all the case. There is a difference between being measured and speaking in a way that is respectful and fair, and using this more coded language to delegitimize other people. And I don't think that I am guilty of that. Second thing, definitely don't think I am. Okay, so why does this matter? It shows how movements fracture when people eat their own, how bullying disguises itself as concern, and how voices, especially women's, get erased. And we've seen this in this community. This community is completely fractured. And I know that most people will blame it on certain individuals, and that's totally unfair, because I think that it's absolutely an epidemic in this community. There are multiple people who are continuing this. There are so many people who continue to fracture this community. I mean, turning against Kathy Allen, saying that her judgment isn't fair, or suggesting that she's not working in Rick's best interest. How does that not fracture the community, guys? So we can't just blame it on one person or a group of people. There are so many people fracturing this community. And you know what? I've got pulled into this drama at times too, because it's hard not to defend yourself. And then when in doing so, that feels like it fractures even further. But on the other hand, it's like, am I supposed to just stand back? Sometimes I do. I do just drop it because at the end of the day, what's more important is Rick. But sometimes I do find it hard to drop. And I'm trying to do that. I really am. But I really kind of need other people to try to drop it too, so that I don't have to be the one who constantly steps back when people are nasty to me. And I think other people would agree with that. So the takeaway messages from today, guys: emotions are the voice of the nervous system. Please accept your emotions, allow your emotions. You don't have to act on them, but you're allowed to gain the wisdom that they have to offer. And don't tell people their emotions are wrong or stupid or too sensitive, because if they're having an emotional reaction, there's a reason, there's a meaning. Maybe we need to step back and think about what that reason is and be curious about it. And even if they are being what you consider overreactive, maybe think about what they've walked through up until that moment that you've met them. Think about the traumas that they faced and the experiences that they faced, and try to see the human being. I once was accused of using my cancer as a way to manipulate, I guess, a situation. But actually, I used my cancer as a way to humanize myself, so that you can see that I'm not some sort of object that you can talk to in such a nasty way. I'm a human being. Let's humanize ourselves. You'll see this all the time on my channel. I posted my funny video of my mum fail with making the birthday cake earlier in the year, partly because it was funny and my son really wanted me to post it because it makes him chuckle. But also partly so you can see who I really am, like that I'm a person, I'm a human being. Boundaries are not meanness. Gaslighting is when someone denies your lived experience while reframing themselves as the reasonable one. And you are not alone. We can stand together and not let this take away from the truth, from the injustice, from the integrity, and from compassion. And I will always be that person. And even if we've crossed each other in the past, even if there's been issues or beef, I will continue to be that person. I will not allow people to bully me, and I will block people who bully me, and I will defend myself. But I will not ever treat you with the same cruelty, and I will forgive, and I will befriend people who want to be, who want to make a fresh start, who want to turn over a new leaf. The final thing that, actually not the final thing. So this is just, again, a note to Kathy, because that's what today was about. I know I've kind of also spoken a lot about my own experiences and the bullying, but I think they all go together. But I just want Kathy to know we stand with you, we respect you, we trust you, we know you're suffering, and your suffering makes sense. And we know your strength, and we will never give up, and you will never be alone. As long as I am here, I will continue to stand with you, Kathy, because I truly care about you and Rick and your whole family and the injustice of this case. And I'm here beside you guys. And I'm not going anywhere, even though some days the social media campaigns against people drive me nuts. So one last thing, just for the people who may have heard some things about me over the last little while on social media, this is who I am. I forgive readily. I stick up for others when they're alone, vulnerable, and bullied. I don't pick fights. I'm assertive and fair. I self-reflect and try to do better. I'm inclusive, and I give credit where credit's due, and do not try to tear down other people's hard work. And I hope that you see all of that within me as you watch my channel and interact with me. But also about me, I find it hard to look away from injustice, and I don't walk away from drama enough because I get stuck on the unfairness. I'm persistent and sometimes perseverate when I feel unheard or when I'm super excited. I rely on ChatGPT to write my responses when I feel nervous or unsure. That's changing though, because I'm starting to feel more tethered to my own wisdom. But sometimes this leads me to sounding more confident and perhaps too confident for some people's liking. ChatGPT really sometimes is a little bit more abrasive than I would want to be. Needs to tone it down sometimes, right? I feel so much. My passion makes me loud, persistent, and emotionally intense, and I am proud of that. But I know that that can be bothersome and annoying to people. And that's okay if it annoys you. You don't have to like me. You don't have to listen to me. And you don't have to be a part of this if you don't want to. But I am harmless. And finally, I am an idealist, a dreamer. I do have fantasies of making a difference in this world, and perhaps that's annoying to people. I would love to make a massive difference in this case. I would. And that's not hero complex or whatever they call it. That's just being an idealist. I've spent my whole life thinking about dreams that I have for the future and what I want to do. And I have these wild plans, of getting acreage and building a cat sanctuary and therapy retreat and sitting doing work for the Innocence Project. And you know what? I would love to do that. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me powering on days where life is hard. And will I get there? Maybe not. But what's wrong with being a dreamer? What's wrong with being an idealist? And if that annoys you, if it's opposite to your worldview or your values, then you just don't need to be part of my community. There's lots of other communities. I definitely know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And it doesn't make you a bad person if I'm not your cup of tea. It just means we're not a good fit, guys. And a note about loyalty. I'm adding this because one of the things that just keeps getting thrown up when I try to defend myself is that I have, I guess, had associations with other people in the community that other people feel are unfair or have targeted them. And I guess what I'm going to say here is that, yes, I have spoken to and collaborated with at times, and maybe probably even befriended at times people that you may feel are not the kindest of people. Yes, I may have. And that's because I recognize that people can hold multiple truths. We can be kind and warm to some and less so to others. But that does not mean that I excuse aggression. I understand the difference between reactive aggression, and I also understand what instrumental aggression is. And I don't stand for any aggression. I don't. But I also am able to see the layers of people. And I appreciate if you see the layers in people who've been aggressive to me too. But the difference is, and this is a big difference, I don't join in or defend others when they lash out without reasonable provocation. Integrity means holding even allies accountable. And I do that. If somebody is attacking someone for no good reason and they're really struggling and they're vulnerable, I am not going to stand by and say, yeah, keep going, keep doing that. I wouldn't do that. I can respect parts of a person without losing my own values. And that to me is discernment. It's not hypocrisy. And a final note about loyalty. What I've just explained is very different to the mob dynamic that I've fallen victim to. Because in that dynamic, not only do they notice that the bully is bullying me, okay, you don't want to say anything, that's fine, but they actually excuse the bully's needless, unprovoked harassment. They attack those who try to hold their friend accountable. They join in and throw nasty, mocking grenades and then accuse me or other victims of being sensitive. And there seems to be little self-reflection or accountability, and that is not integrity. That is groupthink. So you will never catch me standing with someone who's bullying other people and saying, oh no, they're not bullying you. They're a really good person. You just have to leave it. You just have to get along with them. I will not say that. I will not join in and start making them seem like they're the problem, because how dare this person be upset by what somebody else is doing? I joined this community as a tiny, tiny fish in a massive ocean, and I got attacked from very early on. Why on earth I got attacked, I don't know to this day. For having a different opinion, for being confident and logical in my opinion, for repeating myself and being annoying. Well, if I'm annoying, just block me, guys. You don't have to follow me. Nobody is putting matchsticks in your eyes and making you sit and watch my channel and listen to me right now. So just letting you guys know, I didn't deserve it. And I am not a hypocrite. Are there people that I am friends with who may have said and done things that you don't like? Yes. But do I condone and stand by their aggression? No. And do I join in and attack people for no good reason? No. And is there a difference between reactive anger, like we talked about earlier, when you react to being attacked and bullied and maligned, and instrumental violence or aggression, where you do it for control and status and to silence someone for no good reason? Yes, there is. Is there a difference between picking on an underdog and picking on people that you feel are doing the wrong thing? Yes, there is. And anybody who's bullied me, you have picked on an underdog. And I'm not an underdog anymore, guys, because I have insight, because I'm not just smart intellectually, I'm emotionally intelligent. And guess what? The combination of intellect and emotion, that, my friends, is wisdom. And on that note, that very confident note, thank you all for sticking by me. Everybody who joins my community, who engages with me, who shows me support and love. You guys are such wonderful human beings. And together we will help Rick and Kathy. Together we will stand by them. We will not tell them what to do. We will not be their boss, but we'll hold their hands and walk with them through this as much as we can. Thank you so much, guys. This is the last I want to talk about bullying, and I hope this is the end of it. I really do. I hope that we can create a community that is kind and loving and does not repeat the same injustice that was done to Rick. Love you all, guys. Thank you for sticking with me through this massive long live of philosophy and psychology and my own personal issues and sticking by Kathy Allen too. I hope that Kathy and Rick see my heart, because I know that many people in here do, and I appreciate you. I really appreciate you guys. So I'm not going anywhere. Let's drop some more bombshells. Let's educate some more people about psychology, and let's make sure that Rick gets home to Kathy. Bye, guys. Have a great day.